Hello there. Thank you for joining me. We are out on the homestead, and I'd like to answer some of the questions that you have left me about what I'm doing out here. I know a lot of you see me burning these trees and think I'm evil. Evil! How can he burn all these trees? Well, the honest answer is if it's not good for firewood, it's going on the burn pile. And a lot of these trees have been good for firewood. So I'll show you some of the firewood that we've chopped. We've stacked it up nicely for this winter. But as for the rest of these trees, as for all this small stuff with leaves on it, we're just gonna build a pile here and control the burn. Now, there still are some large trees that I'd like to take out of this area before we start construction. And ultimately, the plan is to build a cottage where you are right now. I've done a perk test, which is where you dig a 2-foot hole down in the ground and fill it with water to watch how it drains. This is ultimately going to determine whether or not you can have a septic tank. Now, if you want your toilets, your washer, your shower, your sinks to all drain properly, you need something for the water to go into. That's really the first part of this project, is figuring out what the foundation is going to be like. And ultimately, you need to clear in order to open the area up enough to really get a good lay of the land. Another big goal of this homestead is to have well water. I'd like to have a well dug and pump my own well water. Now, ideally, I'd have it running off of solar, and I'd have a battery for that solar to charge into. That way, when it's not sunny outside, I still have power from my well that would pump water into my house. Another goal of this homestead is to have animals. I'd like to have at least a dairy cow and a couple chickens. Now, I'm okay with quail. I just want something that's going to give me eggs. So I'm still weighing the options of whether or not I want a large bird or a smaller bird, because there are pros and cons to each. In the past videos that you've seen, I've been using a smaller chainsaw. Now, that saw was my parents', and it was the first chainsaw that I have ever used. Now, I started out with a pocket knife when I was probably 9 years old. I got familiar with how to use a pocket knife safely, and then from there I went up to a fixed blade, which is something like what I have here. It's just one solid blade. It doesn't fold. From there, I started learning how to use an electric saw, so something that would either reciprocate or a circular saw that you would cut lumber with. And then from there, I had my first experience with the chainsaw, which is the chainsaw that you've seen in the other videos. After gaining some experience and understanding of how the saw works, how to maintain the saw, and how to operate the saw safely, I have decided to make my first major investment into the homestead by purchasing a professional grade chainsaw. This here is a Stihl 400C. It's a 67cc saw. So for those of you that aren't familiar with cc's, it's cubic centimeters. That's the size of the engine. Whereas the previous saw that I operated was 40 cc's. And in order to do the level of work that is required to get this homestead going, I need a larger saw. And of course, larger saw, got myself some chaps, safety helmet with a visor and ear protection, always wearing gloves. I'm making sure that I am safe when operating this machinery. It's dangerous to be out here. Not only the machines that you use, but limbs falling on you. The ground's uneven, it's uncertain. However, simply because it's dangerous does not mean it's not worth doing, because this is the most rewarding work that I've ever done in my life. Having your own property and being able to do with it what you please is rewarding, because you can express control over your environment and construct beautiful landscapes. It's artistic. And I think everybody needs a little bit of manual labor just to get out of their own head, get more in touch with their body, and let out some stress. It's one of the most rewarding pursuits that there is. And I haven't even started to farm animals. I've had a garden in the past, and I've done lots of clearing. I've done lots of controlled burns, but I've yet to explore animals. I've only built a few things with my own hands. There's just limitless potential when you have your own property. And that's why I'm such a big advocate for people getting out of the cities and getting a piece of land out in the country, because there's so much freedom. It's beautiful being out here because you do not have to restrict yourself. You are able to express yourself fully. The air's fresh. The stars are bright at night. You can see them clearly. You don't have all the noise that you would have of sirens and cars and music that you get when you're in the city, and it's such a wonderful place to be. So that's some of the plans for the homestead thus far. I'd like to build a cottage where you are. I'd like to build a well with a solar-powered pump. I'd like to have my own shop. I'd like to have a full outdoor jungle gym. I'd like to create some pastures for my animals to graze. I'd like to have cattle, potentially goats, chickens, or quail. And I'd like to live in harmony with the earth. I'd like to get in touch with nature as much as possible and avoid all of the stress and all of the headache of city living. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one.